Hi, this is TS Dismas with the Psychology of Heaven, and today I have with me Lolly, who has told me about an interesting and very kind of crazy experience that she has happened or has happened in her life. And she's here with me today to share this story, and I'm really excited for everybody to hear it. She's not going to use her real name. Lolly is the name that she has chosen for herself, and she wants to just share this story and hopefully help enlighten people to some of the things that happen in the afterlife. And Lolly, I'd like to just turn it over with you. I don't want to divulge too much of what's going on.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say I had to gather a lot of courage to kind of speak out about this situation. I know that it has happened to people, and you would never really, well, I never really expected that anything like this could happen to me. So a little bit about my background. I was an unbeliever. I did not believe in God. I did not believe in Jesus. And I didn't consider myself an atheist or anything. I didn't really put a type of label on myself like that. I I had read the Bible when I was younger. My dad used to read it to me. But somewhere along the line in like my early adulthood years and my early 20s, um, I just really kind of just threw that out of my life. Like I was so distant from it. And I was like, no, I just want to believe in science or real, what's reality, huge skeptic. Like if somebody would tell me they had experience, I would be like, oh, I wouldn't be rude about it, but I would listen and be like, okay, maybe that's not true or that's not possible. Maybe it was for them, but I never thought anything spiritual or supernatural could ever happen to me. So I wanted to, because it's so much and it's really hard to explain. I wanted to read what I kind of had written down about it recently. So I'm just going to get started with that.
Thank you.
Okay. So my experience actually started about 2 years ago. It's an ongoing experience even today. So everything started with like an energy coming into my life. I had no idea what it was. It was just so disruptive and so persistent. I was like, I have to figure out what this is. And when it happened, I was meditating on forgiveness, and everything in my life changed that day. So I was focusing really, really hard, like with all my will, all my might, all my heart, on forgiving everyone and anyone that I could possibly remember at the time. So I was meditating on like things people had done that I felt were wrong, like when people wronged me, offended me, insulted me, different situations. And I did my best to try to remember everyone, like going, like thinking of the person and thinking of their face and their name if I could remember it. So I was also started doing the same for people that I had wronged and offended too. And just really into that, like really going down a list. And anybody that I'd hurt, offended, even if it was something the person didn't even know about, it was just getting brought up, like, to my memory. So let me see where I was at. So as these situations, they started like flooding into my mind, just one after another. Like I'm forgiving people and I'm asking for forgiveness. I was not praying to God at all because I didn't believe in God. It was just like some type of practice thing that I was doing. And I started to cry because I felt so horrible because I mean, you don't normally go around throughout the day thinking about all the times in your life that you've messed up or did something wrong to somebody. You know, that would be such, maybe some people do, but that would be such a huge weight to carry all the time. So usually it's like you push it to the back of your mind. But while I was doing this, everything was like coming to the surface. And so I was realizing just all the different ways I had, you know, been mean to people or did something or said something where I knew I could have done, I could have reacted or said something differently. But I chose not to. Like, I chose to do the wrong thing instead. So my conscience just got really burdened down and heavy with like this guilt type of feeling that I had for other people. And so let me see. So it took a lot of concentration for me to do that and to stick with it too, because it's not, you know, those aren't good feelings. Like, and now I realize like I was repenting. I was so distant from the Bible and anything that had to do with God or Jesus that I didn't realize that was repenting. But I was like crying and everything.
Yeah.
So I was doing that for a while. It took like a lot of my strength to do that. And I started drifting into a deeper state of meditation, or maybe like half awake, half asleep type of thing. It wasn't like a full sleep that I had went into. I was laying down on my bed at the time when I was doing this, and I was doing it for like about an hour. And then, so the next thing I want to say is, I am usually a very sound sleeper. Before this point, I had never had anything like this happen to me in my life. Like never, ever, ever.
Right.
So I've always been like a sound sleeper, never had any type of vision, or I was just a huge skeptic of anything spiritual, religious and stuff. So I like, even when I sleep, I don't even remember my dreams. I'm just
You're just
lights out sleep. Yeah. So when I started drifting into that state, there was like a vision that I had, which is so unusual for me. But it was like an eye, and it was like a very old eye that looked ancient. It had like, it was like wrinkly, and it appeared and it said to me, so it didn't have a mouth, it's an eye, right? But what it said is, don't pay attention to me, you deserve this. So it wasn't, yeah, it said, don't pay attention to me, you deserve this.
Wow.
And I mean, that startled me so much that I just like sat up straight in my bed, like, what was that? What is that? What how could I, because it didn't have a mouth. Like it didn't speak with an audible, like an audible voice that I could hear. Yeah, it was like, it spoke to my mind, but I heard it very clearly in my mind. And it said, don't pay attention to me, you deserve this. So, I mean, that really rattled me, because I'm like, I deserve what? What did I do wrong? You know? So yeah, like nothing like that had ever happened to me. And I want to say, before this day where I was repenting, I didn't know I was repenting, but I actually did not believe in forgiveness at all.
Okay.
I think that's very important to mention here. I mean, it's like, now I know that that's dumb, and I know that that's wrong. It's really wrong. But I'm gonna read this part. So I had stopped believing in forgiveness when I was in about my early 20s. And it wasn't because of one single event that happened to me in my life. It's because someone came to me with like a philosophical viewpoint, they came to me, and the idea that they were trying to argue with me was this: like, forgiveness is an impossible construct because you can't go back and rewind time.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what they said. So then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, if someone does something wrong, whether it's you or somebody else, like you can't travel back in time, undo that, and then try to change the situation.
Okay.
So I was thinking about that. I was like, okay, let me think about this and mull it over in my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And so
that was the first thing that they said to you?
I mean, after I kind of stopped believing in forgiveness, I think really like my soul was really endangered of not really making it to heaven. Because if you don't believe in forgiveness, you know, it's like it's just not a good thing. But at that time when the person, you know, presented that viewpoint to me, I came back. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. Forgiveness is like impossible because you can't go back in time. And yeah, people should just try to do the very best that they can the first time around. If they make a mistake, then do better after that.
Yeah.
So if someone came to me with that today and was like, you know, forgiveness is impossible, I would realize it would be like what you call like a doctrine of devils. Really.
Yeah.
That's what that was. Because everything kind of started like it further separate. I didn't know God, but that really pushed me further from him, I think.
Well, because you know that's what Satan wants you to do. He wants you to believe that forgiveness is off the table, that whatever it is you do, he's going to tell you it's too big, it's too much, you've done it too many times, you're not sorry enough. He's going to tell you all these lies about it. And then he's going to tell you, you know, God's not going to forgive you. He's going to cast you off. You're already lost. Go ahead and just keep doing what you want to do because it's too late. But that's the big lie. You know, Jesus didn't come back to die for nothing. He came back to die for our sins. And no matter how many times we have to confess those sins, he's going to accept it because he's all forgiving and all loving. And I mean, it's wonderful. And I'm so glad you bring that point up because that's a really important piece to add. And I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, so that's another, there's so much deception out in the world today. And that's one of the tricks the enemy is using is like, oh, well, forgiveness is impossible. Like someone can't go back and change what they did. Right. And, you know, even when I was reflecting on that and bought into that lie, because it was deception, I mean, you just think about all the most horrible things that a person could possibly do to someone else. You're like, wow, this person ruined that person's life forever. They caused so much damage. And no, you just ruined that person's life. You can't go back in time and change that. So that's where my mind frame was. And I bought into that lie because I really didn't know nothing about God and Jesus at that time anyways. So the devil tricked me.
Oh yeah. He's good at that, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Even if like it was someone coming to me speaking intelligently, like a philosophical discussion, you know, it's just really paying attention to the words and the theories people are trying to kind of throw at you. And, you know, you can have discussions where it prompts some critical thinking, but sometimes, especially if you lack discernment and if you're naive, it is not good. Yeah. And I was so naive.
That is such a good point. You know, it's like when you think about like when we're kids and we go to our parents, you know, when we've gone to one of our parents and they told us an answer we didn't particularly like, we go to the other one and we kind of rearrange what we're going to say in a way to hopefully get the answer that we want, you know, but often what we'll do is we'll leave things out. We'll tell part of the story. We won't tell it all. We're certainly not going to tell them that we talked to the other parent, but that's kind of what Satan does too, is that he uses these little tricks to try to bring things to us. And sometimes he'll tell us part of the story. Sometimes he'll just leave all of it out, but he's always doing things to try to confuse us. He brings chaos and confusion, and that's really the only things that he has to offer.
Yeah, definitely. So, that actually, I started living by that mantra too, like, oh, forgiveness is impossible. Don't say sorry to me. So then people would come to me and say, oh, sorry, I messed up. Oh, please forgive me. And I'm like, no, don't tell me sorry. I'm not forgiving you. I don't believe in forgiveness.
Wow.
And yeah. And when I think about that, I feel so bad because a lot of times pride is really hard for people to swallow and ask for forgiveness in the first place. So when people were wanting to tell me sorry for things, and it could just be a minor thing, I'm like, just do better next time, you know? And I felt horrible about that, like even to today, really. But that's why I think that experience that I had started out with me repenting and reconsidering my idea of what forgiveness was. And the whole reason of what brought me to that point, anyways, of reconsidering forgiveness, because I had reached the stage in my life where what I was doing was not working for me anymore. And this had to do with people that I knew, even distant people, that were just really like lying on me, trying to hurt me, betrayal, just being very hurtful.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to retaliate. I was like, okay, maybe this will pass. Maybe they'll stop. Maybe they'll do better next time. You know, like what I thought. No, that it wasn't working. So I was like, why is this happening to me? So I was like, okay, let me try forgiveness. And then that's when I saw that eye. And when it said, don't pay attention to me, you deserve this. And the first thing is like, well, I am going to pay attention because what is that? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So let me see what happened next. Okay. So after that experience, like I don't know if it was the same night or the next day or the day after that, but there started being an energy inside of me that I could physically feel.
Okay.
Like nonstop 24/7. Even now I have it.
Was it isolated? Is it isolated to one area, or does it move, or is it all over?
It's all over.
Okay.
But mostly I feel it in the center of me. I'll feel it in the center just from, it's more so concentrated like in my torso, like on up, but I feel it all the time, especially like when I'm praying, I feel it too.
Okay.
And I feel it now, even while we're talking. Like no one knows that I have it unless like I tell them. So it doesn't do anything. It doesn't cause like a hindrance in my daily activities. Like it doesn't take control of my body or anything like that. But I just feel the energy constantly.
Yeah.
And
is it like a good or a negative feeling? Do you feel like it's a good presence?
At first I thought it was negative.
Yeah.
At first I did. And it was very painful. Like I would feel burning heat. Like different areas of my body would just be feeling like on fire. And I'm like, what is wrong? Do I have like a neurological disorder or what? Like, what is going on? So I think the energy, like when I first got it, it was because I had a lot of things about myself that I had to change. And I think when change is hard to do, and especially if it's almost like kind of like a forceful thing, like the energy, it feels forceful, but at the same time, not like a guiding type of thing, I guess. But at first, no, it felt like it was like my enemy or something when I first got it. But when I got it, I noticed so much drastic changes in my thinking.
Okay.
Like I woke up, I couldn't hate people anymore.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't be prejudiced against groups of people.
Yeah.
Or you know how like we naturally categorize groups or people or things as positive and negative based off experience or just being indoctrinated with political bias. I did not have that in me at all anymore. So that was something that was really huge because I used to think about that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And my taste of music changed. Like I didn't like music that is demeaning to other people, that had like curse words in it.
Yeah.
That changed immediately. So I was like, hold on, ever since this energy came into my life, I'm noticing like my preferences for certain things changing, but so rapidly, and some of it felt easy to let go of. Like I didn't want to go back and like something that I used to like. Some of it was like a struggle, like a battle, like no, I don't want to give that up. But when that happens, the energy gets strong.
Yeah.
And then it starts hurting. And it's like, you know, like if your mom pulls your ear or something, you're like, stop, mom.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's like a kind of thing like that, to where it can get so strong to where I have to stop what I'm doing and think about the situation, think about my thoughts, my feelings, what's on my mind. Okay, what am I doing wrong? And it kind of won't calm down
until you start to do something different.
Yes, but sometimes I don't know what I'm supposed to do different. You know, sometimes I don't know.
Right. So you got to figure it out. Wow, that's cool. I mean,
sometimes I don't know,
but that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. And so with this energy in my life, like when it started happening, I needed to know what it was and why. And I went on Google, and there was like so much stuff that popped up on Google about people having energy in their bodies and this and that. And so what people were saying is like, oh, there's something called Kundalini energy. Okay. And so let me see, because I wrote down like the similarities and the differences. Like I had went into some online forums and stuff and was like reading about people's experiences and seeing what they said. And so some people would do drugs like ayahuasca or whatever, and say that they would have the energy. That wasn't the case with me. So I was like trying to figure out, is this what I have, or what is this energy? Right. So some people, they meditate for years and years and years and years and do yoga for a very long time. That wasn't the case with me at all, because I had done neither. That time of me meditating on forgiveness or repenting, that was the first time I had ever did that. Wow. So, and then some people say there could be an accident, like someone gets into a car accident or a back injury or something, then it can happen. And then the last one is sometimes it could just wake up naturally on its own. And I was like, oh, maybe that's me. Maybe that's what I had, because I didn't know nothing about this. I had never even heard of that before. So that was like what I kind of grasped onto to try to get an understanding of the energy and what it is. And so what people, when I started to share my experience, like with some of the people, they kind of didn't like it. Yeah. Because I feel it all the time, 24/7. And I guess with Kundalini, they have Kundalini rising events where the energy just pour out of them, like, but then it stops, or it pours out and stops. And so I was like, well, I have energy 24/7. It never stops.
It never stops, right?
Yeah, it never stops. It's not, I was like, because then I even started feeling different from them. I was like, well, why is mine going all the time? What is happening to me?
Right.
And I shouldn't have been comparing myself to other people like that, but they were like, oh, that's not true, because if yours is going 24/7, you would have reached some like master levels and you would be some type of enlightened guru. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not enlightened, because I still don't know what this is. And you guys say it only happens like one time and it's going for me. Why is it doing that for me?
Yeah. Although it sounds like you might have a little bit more wisdom in that, because I think anything that's inside of us that we can't control, is certainly not something that I would play with, recklessly. And you're already
Right.
hitting on that. You're already evaluating it from a more scientific approach, something that somebody would do that's observing something, not somebody who's fully experiencing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is that I think with an energy that we can't determine exactly its location, we don't really know its motivations, we don't know a lot of things about it, right? We can't really observe it the way that we're used to observing things. We just have to respond to it. And that's clearly what you're doing. You're learning from this energy source. But it sounds like, when you go to a place, I don't know anything about Kundalini or anything like that, but I do always wonder about people who are given into emotional situations like that and around other people who are also feeding into an emotion that maybe they're misconstruing certain things that are happening in their body. Whereas for you, outside of that group setting, you were having this experience and it was powerful and it was happening all of the time. And I think that's,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
saying something about what you're experiencing versus what they're trying to experience.
Yeah, because my interaction with the people that said they had an energy in their body was, I never went to a physical location and was around. It was all, it was all online. And so I'm like trying to research and stuff, but I know that they would do different type of group stuff or try to, or do different retreats and stuff. And this happened to me right when COVID kind of broke out. So everything was shut down anyways. I was at home, and so I had plenty of time to kind of try to figure it out and research. But what I did notice in there is they told me, if yours is going 24/7, you should have reached a state of like a bliss or nirvana.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't have that. I don't have bliss. I'm upset. I don't really even want this energy. Right. I was thinking, I don't want it. It's such a, and I'm not going to call it a distraction now, but
it seemed like that.
It really seemed like it at the time. Like I wasn't pursuing that, trying to get it. Like I was busy living my life, and it just really threw everything off.
It seemed like, it's the way you're describing it seemed like a burden. Like this was something that you were going through some forgiveness exercises just for your own self-healing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're hit with this energy that's causing you to go deeper into reflection than you even wanted to go. And
it was not comfortable.
It
was not comfortable, because having things come to your awareness where it's like, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about this is not the right way to do things. Like I don't hear a voice from it. It's never anything like audible, but it's like a sense of like inner locution. How do you say that word?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, because I actually know somebody who has the same energy as me, and he's Catholic.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book on it.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask him, I'm like, well, what is this energy? What is it? Because it came to him in prayer. And so he had spent so much time in the church and praying and praying and praying. Then he got the energy too, and had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
So I kind of reached out to him and kind of told him some of my experiences, and the energy is just so mysterious. It's like no one can say for sure if it's one thing or the other. But I asked him, after my hell experience, I asked him, like, is this the Holy Spirit or what? What is it? I don't want anything in me that's going against God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want anything in me that's, he kind of left it open. He's not God. He can't say for sure, but he said, well, God made everything and God created even the destroyer. He's like, well, obviously God thought you can handle the energy. So you have it.
That's right. That's an excellent point. I'm glad your friend that you talked with their friend, because that's a really good point, is that, it might seem like a huge burden. And I think you've kind of changed your opinion on that over this time since that first happened. But, I think often it's something that we would be concerned with or scared of. But, that is saying a lot about you and where God sees you, is that he knows that you're able to handle this. And this is something he's put in your path, and you got to determine where to go with this.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that people do say about Kundalini is that it's supposed to make you grow closer to God.
Okay.
But when I was in those online forums, they were not talking about God or Jesus at all.
Figures, yeah.
And so I didn't really pick up on that at that time. It wasn't until later I'm like, wow, how can they say they know God and that they've reached some type of God type of level? And you can't do that. But besides through Jesus Christ, you just can't go directly to God. And none of them were reading the Bible or anything in there. So they had tips in that forum. So my main objective was, how do I manage the energy? Because it would get very intense. And so they would have tips on like physical health, staying hydrated, eating properly, making sure to go out in nature, stuff like that. And then meditative practices also.
Okay.
And it would be like meditating on your breath, or meditating body relaxation technique exercises. But none of the stuff they were doing was focused or centered on God, really, because how could you be focused on God if you don't read the Bible?
Yeah.
And they never said any scripture or anything at all. So the stuff that they were telling me to do, and like some of the tips and stuff, that wasn't working. Yeah. That wasn't helping me at all. Figures. Sometimes it would make it like worse. I would, especially if I would get upset about something, or I'm not understanding something, the energy is like getting stronger, and I have to sit and kind of just deal with it, wait for it to pass, calm down. It just, what they were telling me wasn't helping. Yeah. So all of the online stuff that I was involved in, or like looking at their tips or how to deal with it, they couldn't answer any of my questions about the energy either, because mine was different, I guess, because it's always going. Right.
Well, I think that's what kind of caught me first, is that, they said you'd be a guru in their circle if this was happening. Well, it is happening. You could vouch for that. So, I mean, you've just explained it to them. I think what it is that, if they're experiencing this energy, at all, it's likely that it's influencing them kind of as it's doing to you, except you're responding to it in some way or another, but you're feeling yours all of the time. I don't think that they really probably have a deep understanding of what that energy is, considering that they said you should be a guru for experiencing what you already are experiencing, except you were asking for answers to the questions you were having because of your experience, which they couldn't do.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing about some of the people in there, they would lose it. Whatever energy they had, they would lose it, or they would have an event, it would happen just one time for them, or they would just lose it for the rest of their life. But they were always like trying to seek after that or
Catch it
obtain
again.
it or something,
Yeah.
or start doing like mushrooms or
Yeah.
ayahuasca or whatever to try to get it back. And that wouldn't work for them a lot of times.
Yeah.
It was almost like a one-time thing for some people, and then they couldn't get that back.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So when I was like, I basically had figured out, I was like, okay, none of this online stuff is helping me. And if anything, it's just making me ask more questions about it. And I didn't want to, I kind of made the decision to cut myself off from like all online activity, reading anything about it, trying to search for any answers about it. I needed to come to a place of acceptance. Like I feel different from other people. I'm not sure if other people got this energy or what, even like in my day-to-day life, or a neighbor or something, but if they did, people probably don't talk about it, or so I was like, I want to come to a place of acceptance. I'm just gonna have to be okay with not knowing what this energy is. I'll learn how to manage it on my own. I didn't want to hear no one's ideas, opinions, or read anything else about it at all. And especially, with the comments is like, oh, well, if that's the case, you should be in a state of nirvana 24/7. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not having that. In fact, there's situations and events in my life. My life is not perfect.
Right.
At all. So I go through life just like anybody else.
Yeah.
Things don't always go my way all the time. Sometimes I feel like I'm treated unfairly, that I'm not, I'm learning how to manage reactions and stuff better to events, even like if I'm being bullied or something. But it's like, still, life is not all peaches and cream, and I can't be in a state of nirvana on earth. I don't think I can. So, another thing that they kind of had was, they had something called like Kriyas or something. Have you heard of that?
I don't think so.
Okay, so this is it's like involuntary movement, like someone's arm would just like shoot out like that, or whatever they say. The people on the forum said they had Kriyas and they experienced that a lot with energy. That never happened to me.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it doesn't take over control of my body, or I don't like shake involuntarily or whatever from it.
You just get the internal feelings.
It just feels like just like a wavy motion. And it sometimes goes this way or swoops or whatever, but it's just I just always feel it. It's not a bad feeling anymore.
Yeah.
At all. It's not a bad feeling.
Just quiet in your soul, kind of just like just a rocking in your spirit.
Yeah, it feels rocking a lot.
Okay.
Like it's like if I was sad, it would rock. It will do that.
Yeah.
It will do that. It does. And like when I read the Bible, because the guy that I know that has the same energy as me, he said, start reading the Bible, because it helps to kind of structure that energy. Like it's more balanced and harmonious, and it does.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, it reacts to the Bible more than anything, and like music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. I can't say if it it's not my energy.
Right.
It felt like I knew it wasn't my energy.
Yeah.
And I don't have control over it.
Right.
But it doesn't try to like control me either.
Right. It doesn't try to control. It just kind of compels you in a way to want to make a decision. It kind of pokes you almost is in a way that there's something that you need to do or to look at. Is that what it is?
Yeah, kind of, not poking in like a physical sense, but it always it will grab my attention.
Yeah,
It will grab my attention by just becoming stronger,
right.
you know, like just becoming stronger. And like I'll say, like, I had a situation, for example, recently. I wanted to embellish on something, like say I had something more than what I did not.
Right.
And I knew that was wrong. I knew that was wrong for me to do, but I still did it.
Yeah.
And so it's going, the energy's going, like, it's like, it doesn't, it's not like a shaky type energy. It feels like smooth. It's a smooth energy. Sometimes it does start to get hot, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like that at all. It starts to get hot. But
does it do that when you're making a decision that you know is wrong, or does it do it all the time, even when you're making good decisions?
It does that when I'm making a decision that I know is wrong.
Okay.
It does that also when I'm thinking about something that is bothering me, like where I'm not getting the type of clarity on. But if my emotions or me being upset is kind of in the way, and it's almost like being like stubborn, like, nope, I don't want to look at it from a different perspective. I don't want to think about something from a different perspective. It will kind of stay strong, and I'll like get up or walk around or go do the dishes or something, and just not pay attention to it, which that's not always good for me to do.
Does it go away if you ignore it, or does it come right back when you settle down again? I mean,
it's always there. Like when I'm moving, like I just like readjusted me sitting. Like if I'm like doing like this, I don't feel it. But then when I sit completely still, I feel it. Like and now I really love to sit still, because I do like feeling the energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, like, let's say when you were thinking about when you embellished it, when you changed when you thought about that, addressed it, recognized that it was wrong, and changed your thinking again back to where you want to be, did it start to go down then, or how was the energy at that point?
Yeah, it starts to go, it starts to kind of go down a little bit, like where it feels softer.
Yeah, but it's still there. It just feels like
it's still there. Right, it's still there.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, it's different, right? So it's like, for me, going to like an unbeliever, and I'm like, I have something happening and turning inside me. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And
I don't want to ask this question. I'll ask it, but you answer it if you want to, or if you have more that you think that it would be better to answer afterwards, you do that. What do you think this energy is?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I'm a new believer.
Yeah.
And I just started reading the Bible. I've been reading the Bible for about a year now. So I'm a new believer. I'm reading stuff about the Holy Spirit and the Holy Ghost and this and that, but it just feels very surreal to be going through this experience with the energy. But not only that, I had about a month's worth of time where I was literally experiencing hell on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's
like really hell.
That's intense.
Oh, it was so intense. It really traumatized me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it was meant to do. So I always remember that. I don't want to go to hell. I really don't want to go to hell. So that's why I started looking at people's NDEs. I'm like, wow, heaven. I know hell exists. Like, I know hell is real.
Right.
And I know Jesus is real. Because I saw Jesus. I didn't even realize that was him, because I didn't believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
But I'm like, wow, if hell is real, heaven is real too.
Right.
So that's how I started looking at people that we're having near death experiences, and it gives a lot of hope.
Right. Absolutely. And and I think too, I mean, you know, like I said, I don't know what this energy is. I'd like to think that it's the Holy Spirit. I kind of think it is. You know,
But why don't other people feel it like that?
I think they
Do they?
Yeah, I think we do. We choose not to, though. I think we can quiet our consciences down, you know, to such a level that people can lie without even thinking anything of it. In fact, they can justify why it's good for them to do so. So you know, where your spirit was telling you, look, no, this is not the right thing. Don't embellish this. And it's just embellishment. It's not even an outright lie, you know. So there's a lot of wiggle.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't. It makes me feel very guilty.
Yes. And
it makes me feel guilty. It's like, okay, this is wrong. I know that it's wrong. And sometimes I can still choose to do a wrong thing anyways, you know. It's like you do something, okay. But I mean, even if I do something wrong, it's still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I haven't had it long enough to like notice if it's a pattern. Like if I keep doing something wrong over and over and over and over, I don't want to do that anyways.
Yeah. You don't want to go down that road.
Because that's not a true repentance if you keep doing the same thing just over and over and over and over. And I just wouldn't want the energy becoming such a huge dominant interference where I had to sit and rethink about. So early on, I didn't realize that I have to pay attention to it, right? For it to kind of get softer. Yeah. Now that I know that, it's like I kind of don't want to be hard-headed and stubborn. So yeah. What is the next thing I wanted to touch on? Okay. So the reason I think, like, when it first came into my life, like why I felt it was the energy was against me, why it was so painful, why it was like felt burning all the time, is because I didn't believe in God or Jesus. And so whatever this energy is making me be a better person. Yeah. So it's making me be a better person, but I didn't realize that I needed to be better or do better until the energy came into my life. And so like no one likes lies, no one likes being lied to or manipulated or deceived, but we do that to ourselves a lot. We can do that to ourselves. That's so true. And so the energy points out the truth about myself, and hearing the truth about yourself or realizing the truth about yourself, it can be very painful. Yeah. The truth is painful. Yep. And so I realized, like, maybe when I first got the energy, I probably didn't love the truth, even though I was never a pathological liar or trying to go around purposely lying or deceiving. I don't like when someone does that to me, but the truth is God. Yeah. It's not just about lying. And if I had this, I was just living a normal life. I never paid attention to energy or what my body felt. I just walk around, you know, with my regular life. And then the energy came, and the energy was in, like, if I was living in opposition to the energy, since it tells me the truth about myself. I think that's why it hurt so bad at first. Yeah. It was physically painful, emotionally painful. But at the same time, it started like having me let go of certain ways of thinking and living. Yeah. And I didn't realize I was just like dropping this stuff off me that was wrong. I didn't even realize. So some of it I didn't have to even try to do. Just like when I woke up and I just could not hate people. Yeah. Like I didn't have to even think about that process. Why it just happened.
How about with the intensity of the like at least the painful experiences of the energy, has that decreased now, or is that
Oh yes, it's definitely decreased because it could get to like a level 8, 9 of pain.
yeah. You know what's interesting is that, I mean, that's why I keep thinking, I mean, it just keeps, the way more you describe it, the more it sounds like this is something from God. Because, if your pain was getting worse, or staying the same, I would say, okay, well,
Hmm.
you're doing all these things to get rid of, to increase forgiveness in your life, to get rid of, angers and hatreds and resentments and prejudices. You're getting rid of all kinds of things that are heavy baggage,
Yeah.
and you're feeling lighter. You're feeling less pain from this particular energy. I got to think that's got to be something from God, because, you know, certainly Satan isn't going to want you to do all these good things that you're doing and not try to cause more confusion. It seems like you're getting more clarity than.
I am, and I don't think Satan wants me to think it's from God either. Because
Right.
I go back and forth, but I'm like, why don't other people feel this? But like you said, maybe that people have it and they are just not aware of it.
Yeah.
Or maybe if they would become aware of it, they might have to kind of stop everything in their life, like
Yeah.
I had to do, and search and try to.
That's
I don't know.
that's it, Lally. I mean,
Um,
that really what it comes down to. We don't want to give up certain things. And, a lot of times we'll say, oh, well, this isn't so bad. It doesn't hurt anybody. And, we just don't want to give it up. But we know right inside of our core, right in our soul, that God doesn't want us to do that. And I don't care if it's something that's not even bad. If God doesn't want us to do it, let's not do it and see what God has for us then, because beautiful things will open up. But when we're resisting his will, then we're gonna find a lot of other things in life. And sometimes we don't get that that speaking to our soul like you have. And if people, if people close that down, they're just going to ignore the wonderful gifts that God has for them.
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if I really found out it was the Holy Spirit, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably cry and
Yeah.
cry, but be so happy.
Yeah.
I'd be so happy. I'd be like, wow, it's
Right.
happening to me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so basically when I wanted to cut off all communication with the online people, and I was like, let me just get to a place of acceptance and focus on my life. The energy's not going nowhere. I don't want it, but it's not going anywhere. I
Right.
can't control it. Um, that is kind of when it was like about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days where I was just not online, not wanting to engage with people or opinions or reading books or whatever. That is when all hell broke loose,
Okay.
literally.
Yeah.
literal
Yeah.
literal hell. So I was like trying to go to sleep one night, and I was just laying down, closing my eyes, just wanting to go to sleep. And like I said, even with this energy and everything, I still am a sound sleeper. I really don't have dreams or any of that. So just like I had saw that eye that said, "Don't pay attention, you deserve this." That night, I saw like this little. It was like a little figure when I closed my eyes. It was like, it looked like a human type of figure, but it kept jumping out of my bedroom window over and over and over. So
Yeah.
that's what I saw when I closed my eyes. And I'm like thinking, well, that's weird. Like, why, what is this? Like, and I was just having the thought, like, is it trying to say to kill myself, or it doesn't want me to kill myself? So the thing heard my thought and turned his head, swiveled his head, looked around, and was like, yes, yes, yes. And I was like, well, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that. So I tried to just ignore that completely and just, go back to sleep, which
Yeah.
I was able to do that night. Um, but that's how it started. I was like, what is that? So, but the next day, I'm just going around, going about my daily business, and I'm in my room, and I kind of just, I'm laying on my bed, just, resting. It's the middle of the day. And all of a sudden, there's about 4 or 5 figures that just appeared around me in my room. So
Okay.
I'm like wide awake. It's like, during the day, I'm not tired. I'm not sleepy at
Yeah.
all. And I was like, what are those?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And so each of them had like a different shape. They looked different. I didn't see them like as a solid object, like this pen, for example. It wasn't like solid. It was like there were like opaque objects, like wispy, like smoke, if you can think about it that way, or like how like there's sheer curtains, like a light type of, like it was an opaqueness over,
Okay.
you know so they weren't like solid
Right.
physical things that I saw. But like one of them, his head was chopped off and it was carrying its own head.
Okay.
That's how I'm like, it's something bad. Like, what is going on? It's something bad.
Yeah.
And so they could kind of shift shapes and forms. One of them had like ice picks or icicles or something for hands.
Okay.
And one of them was like a human type of figure. And then there was another one, to where whenever it got close to me, I felt very confused,
Okay.
like a dizzying, like a vertigo, like
Yeah. Like it's
confusion. I mean,
overwhelming.
couldn't even get my thoughts together. Like I don't know if that's how people with like Alzheimer's or something might feel, but just complete confusion, like you can't even think.
Right. Yeah.
And that one, anytime it came closer to me, like I couldn't even think straight. um and so these things started torturing me, and it was physical pain. Like the one with the ice picks kept stabbing me like repeatedly over and over, and I could feel that
Wow.
in my body. It was
Yeah.
so extremely painful. It's like something stabbing you and you feeling it, but you're not bleeding it, you're
Right.
not dying,
But you're just in
everything's
pain.
still okay.
Yeah.
it was
Wow.
it was horrible. The worst part of it lasted 3 days, when they were doing different stuff to me, like trying to scare me and intimidate me and causing different physical type of pain. And so I had to have someone take care of me. Um, my significant other, I had to have him take care of me, because I was in so much physical pain from what they're, and I told him, I was like, hey, I don't know if I'm going crazy or what.
Right.
I was like,
Mm.
I can't even focus. I can't think. And there's these things that are bothering me.
Yeah.
They were demons, and I didn't know that because I didn't believe in demons.
Right.
But that's exactly what they were.
Yeah.
And they like to torment and torture and abuse, and they don't play fair at all. And it's like they're kicking you while you're down. It's like a relentless tormenting and like torture,
Yeah.
what they were doing. And so I had told my significant other this, and I was like, yeah, they're bothering me. I was like, can you see them? Do you feel an evil presence or anything? And he's like, no. And I was just like, oh, that's good. That's such a relief, because if anything evil was around, I'd rather it bother me and not anyone else.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So
Yeah, that's actually a really a strong personality trait. That's to accept suffering for yourself, as opposed to others having it. God's always going to look favorably on somebody who's willing to do that. That's in essence what he did. He took on human form, became a human, and suffered and died for us. And he gives us that same mission. And for you to naturally want to do that, that's got to be very pleasing to him. And I think that's probably in essence why you've been given this this spirit that's stirring you up to do the right things.
Yeah. That, I mean, that makes sense. It didn't feel like that. I mean, I just knew what was happening to me. It was
Yeah.
like so horrible. I wouldn't wish it on my
On
worst
anyone,
enemy.
right.
I mean, it was so bad. So not only were they like physically abusing me and tormenting me and torturing me, I mean, they were even trying to sexually abuse me too.
Yeah.
And you know, that like really bothered me because I kept being violated and there was like nothing I could do because it's like you can't punch the air.
Right,
You know,
right,
you can't,
right.
there's like nothing you can do,
Yeah.
just having to sit there and suffer and go through something like that. So not only were they like physically attacking me, but they at times they were able to kind of take over my senses and force me to have these very horrific visions of really bad stuff happening.
Yeah.
I mean, everything they showed me was so bad. I mean, what the opposite of good, that's what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we think we know what their true intention is and that what they're really strong.
Yeah.
They're extremely strong if you don't have protection.
Right.
They're very strong. It's like you can't like battle them or go toe to toe with them, especially that one that would come close and confuse me. It's like my mind just scrambled like confusion.
Yeah. And
so then
there's nothing you could do against it.
Yeah, it wasn't even a fair fight. I mean, that's not even fair.
Right.
You know, so then it would be that. So then they started showing me visions of just horrific stuff like killing babies, killing children, genocide, murder, torture, rape, abuse, them causing agony to people, like in ways that it was messing with their minds. They kept showing me like it was weird because I was like, why am I seeing this? It starts to really just wear you down after a while. And if I get emotional, it's not because I'm not really sad. I'm not sad. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
But I don't like the stuff that they're causing on the earth.
Yeah.
And to the world.
And you can see that how they did it to you, how they're doing it elsewhere too.
Oh yes, they showed me like it's them responsible for so much, like just unnecessary death and loss of life and destruction.
Yeah.
And sorry.
No, you're doing great.
But I always, every time I talk about it, I get emotional. Yeah. Every time I talk about me being in hell, I get emotional, but not because I'm not afraid.
No, you know what?
Yeah, it's just very sad.
I get the same way. I get the same way, not sad, but I get really happy and excited when I think about my near-death experience. And it's because it's so much more real than real life that my brain actually is responding to my memory more than it is to me sitting in this chair or how cold or warm the temperature is in the room. You know, those memories are so much stronger. And I think that's probably why you're feeling that emotion, is that you're reconnecting to that experience. And you know, that's
yeah, but I don't mind if I cry either, because I'm so glad I had that experience, because it makes me, I don't want to go to hell. I do not want to go there. Maybe because I was such an unbeliever and such a skeptic. That's what I had to be shown. I was on the wrong path. Right. But yeah, so they showed me a bunch of stuff, like things that are like outdated, like things that kind of don't exist now, like different methods of torture, like for example, guillotines. Okay. And they kept showing me people's heads getting cut off over and over by guillotines. And so even though I knew it wasn't real life and they're making me see these things, it doesn't take away from the fact how traumatic that was to just seeing people dying over and over and over.
Yeah.
They're the opposite of life.
Yeah.
They do not like life.
Right. Were the people wearing modern clothes, or were they wearing older clothes? Do you remember in the vision that you?
Yeah, they were wearing older clothes.
Okay.
And so I saw a lot of people like on poles being strapped down
Okay.
to poles.
Yeah.
People like it'd be like a room or a crowd of people, and then all of them just dropping dead at one time.
Wow.
Then I saw visions of people jumping out of buildings,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people jumping down to their deaths.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this, the World Trade Center or what? Like, why am I being shown these things? And the whole time it's just really, it was taking away my hope, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, there's nothing good. I'm not seeing
Right.
nothing good, even though I would try to turn on the TV or it didn't matter. They were always there. They're able to take over my senses
Yeah.
and make me watch death of other people, and I was so sad for them.
Yeah.
And it just being exposed to death, destruction. They had like sadist, um like a sadist element to them, like they enjoyed to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe them, because everything I've ever read about demons, they're very sadistic. It's not that they just use evil things to get their desires met. It's they actually enjoy
Yeah,
creating harm and destruction in human beings. They hate us that much, and I think that's really telling to know that we have an adversary that's lulling much of the world to sleep. And in reality, it just can't wait till it gets those sleepy heads under its full control. And if it could get us all to fall asleep, it would be really happy.
yes, but also at the same time, like people are so much more protected than they realize
Yeah,
from them.
yeah,
They even if they don't believe in God, um, they people are just so much more protected
yeah,
than they realize to because people usually don't have to battle that type of evil, dark presence or force or go through that type of torturous experience.
because God doesn't let you're so right about that. God doesn't let those kind of things just happen all the time. And they think, like you said, we are protected. God is like, even the unbelievers, he's keeping them away from those people, just because he loves them and wants them to be able to find him. And yet, sometimes people like you are exposed to this, but God knows that you're going to be able to handle it and come the right way. Now, you do still have free will. You could choose to use this as a means to getting your own desires met. Who knows if it would work? I don't know. I don't trust the demons enough to try to risk something like that.
No, they don't want anything good for
Oh,
any person
right.
at all, like
Yeah.
whatsoever, at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just horrific. And it's not me seeing those types of visions and then feeling the physical discomfort is also like an emotional thing. Like if I had so much evil surrounding me, that it does start to do something. I think it does start to do something to your soul,
Yeah.
because it's not supposed to be natural for us to even have it be that close to us. Like it's like a unspeakable anguish just
Yeah.
being in the presence of evil, like true pure evil. It is horrible.
Yeah, I think that they try to present us with despair. They want to imprint despair onto our souls, or we have no sense of hope. And that's the beautiful thing about faith, is that we can hope in the coming of our Lord again. He's going to come back and he's going to save us all from this. And to know that we have salvation in us, that provides so much hope. And if they can take that away from us, that's what they want. They want to leave us with complete despair.
Yes, and that's exactly the point that I was getting to, because my hope just kept getting eroded down, like more and more. Like the longer I was having to deal with that, and I dealt with that for a month, because then I started like getting almost raptured down to hell.
Okay.
I'd be laying in my bed, and just their hands would grab me and just pull me down, and I would be in hell, and I was burning.
Yeah.
And I felt it physically as if I was on fire.
Okay.
Um, and it's like you're not getting burnt up. The
Yeah.
inside of my body felt like my organs were melting and turning to mush. My bones, I mean, all of my ligaments, my joints, just everything. I mean, it was really horrible.
Yeah.
So I was also seeing visions in hell too. And so they I was like kept in a room with a huge demon, and it was just, so when we spoke about earlier, like the energy does that, they use that against me. You know, anything good, they're gonna try to find a way to pervert it and ruin it. Like any little help, anything you love, they hate it.
Yeah.
So I was in hell, and there's like this boss demon, and it had me in chains and sitting. I mean, it was so huge. It was so much bigger than me, and stronger than me. And I was sitting between its legs, and it was rocking me back and forth like that. And so I thought the energy was bad. You know, I started to associate something that was good for me with something bad. I mean, they know exactly the areas to hit.
Yep.
They know exactly the things that make you
What buttons
happy.
to push. Yep.
Yeah, so when it was doing that, it was like just rocking me back and forth. And I had known the energy even without that experience at all. Is rocking back and forth. It's like comforting. You know, they wanted to take that away from me.
Yeah.
Too. So
Right.
it was like I was in the presence of like this big, huge demon with chains, and it kept like stabbing me with different things, and just like I felt like its power and its presence was too strong for me.
Okay.
I didn't like it. And so like it could grow bigger. And it said something to me that just recently I reflected on. But it said to me, like thought to thought, it said, call on God. That's what it said.
Yeah.
It said, call on your God. And I was like, no. I was like, no, I don't want to. If he does exist, it's miserable down here. Nobody wants to be down here.
Yeah.
That was the thought communication I had back to it. So like I'm in hell, and then I'm seeing like people being murdered repeatedly down there, like people being raped repeatedly, helpless people being raped over and over repeatedly, and there's like nothing that can be done. It's just like a cycle, like just starts over and over. And then it's there's people being dismembered, like their body parts being dismembered, and it's just there's like no good feelings or anything, nothing good that existed there.
Yeah.
And even when that demon told me to call on God, I didn't. But it got to the point to where it was like so bad and so severe. Like I had told my significant other to take me to the hospital. I said, it feels like I'm dying. I'm being burnt alive. I mean, I could barely eat.
Yeah.
I could barely drink. Like he was he had taken over everything, like the cooking and cleaning and stuff, because I couldn't do nothing but just kind of lay there and just suffer.
Why didn't you call to God? Do you remember? Did
I
you?
didn't believe in him
Yeah. And
at
you
that time.
and you didn't think, even with what was going on, did you have, like, in the back of your mind, were you just second guessing, even beyond the belief? I guess maybe the disbelief, it just was enough. But I guess what I'm wondering is, did somehow you feel like you couldn't talk to God, like it wasn't worth it, or just you just didn't believe in him at all?
Um, I really didn't believe in him at all.
Yeah.
But I think even if I did, at that point, I felt so evil because I was surrounded by it.
Yeah, that's what I want to
I
know.
felt so
Yeah.
evil. I was like, I don't want to be around nobody. I don't even want to be around my family. I just want to go somewhere alone, because the evil just felt like it was following me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to put
Consumed
that
you.
on no one else.
Yeah.
So it was a thing where it's like, you don't want no one to be hurt like that.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah.
I was like considering like leaving and just like waiting for whatever to happen to stop. And at that time too, because I was like an unbeliever, even though I had that energy and experienced that before this, I still didn't believe in God. But it was kind of opening my mind up to the possibility. After that hell experience, I knew God and Jesus are 100% real,
Oh yeah.
and hell is real. So I really had to learn. I really had to learn the hard way. I don't wish that on anybody. But yeah, so he took me to the emergency room because I was like, I think I'm dying, for my body to be this hot, for me to be feeling like my organs are just melting.
Yeah.
I was like, there might be something, maybe there's something wrong with my brain. Maybe I'm having hallucinations. Maybe I'm going crazy. Let me go to the hospital. So he took me, but on the way as we were driving, I mean, they were still following me. There is like a fiery type of feline creature that was jumping from roof to roof, from building to building, following the car. Like, they're fast.
Yeah.
There is no
No
type
getting
of
away
like,
from them.
yeah, there's no getting away from them. And like, space or distance doesn't
Doesn't matter.
mean anything to them. They can travel very fast. So I saw that, but I went to the ER and they did my vitals and stuff. And they're like, oh, your oxygen levels are fine. Your heart rate is normal, everything, they're doing my vitals. They're telling me everything's normal.
And you're
But
not
I'm like,
feeling.
yeah, but I didn't feel that way at all. And so you would think I would be showing that I'm in a physical state of anxiety,
Right.
but everything was perfectly normal.
So
blood pressure, everything.
Yeah,
So
that's really interesting, because I think, feeling internal pain is one thing. We could excuse that, but you would definitely have some kind of increased breath rate or blood pressure or heart rate. Something would be showing signs of anxiety to that level. And
it didn't.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it didn't. And so I had told them, I was like, maybe can I get an MRI or something? Can I get a scan of my brain? Like, I want to see, is something wrong? Is something physically wrong with my brain? Because I did not think this could be possible. And so they were like, yeah, that's going to be about 3 hours, and then we'll call you back. While I was sitting in the waiting room, and they were tormenting me, even in the waiting room. And so I was like, I just want to go back home and deal with it at home. And so I did. I mean, I was still burning 24/7. I've always been a sound sleeper. They started affecting my sleep because I didn't want to close my eyes and see little children dying.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I go to sleep now, it was like I was it was like a daily nightmare. It was like just a pure nightmare. So I started getting less hours of sleep during that time. That's not a good thing to do, because that weakens you too.
Yeah.
If you start losing sleep, because I need like 8 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah.
I need that rest. I make sure that I get it. So if I started losing sleep and not drinking enough water like people need to, not really eating, I was making sure to take vitamins during that time.
Good.
So I was like taking vitamin C, the B vitamins, like the essentials and stuff, just to kind of sustain my nutrients at that time. That was really all I could do.
Yeah.
And just like it hurt so badly. I was like in a fetal position like this, just curled up on the couch or on my bed and just dealing with that. But so just how they try to ruin the stuff that you love or the stuff that you like. Even if you like flowers, if someone goes through an experience, and I really pray that people don't, but they'll find a way to ruin the joy that you get in just looking at a flower.
Yeah.
It's just everything that I thought of, because I was trying to get my mind back to something positive or good. And every time I did, they would just try to destroy that or pervert it or make it seem very like, oh, you can't have that happiness either, or you can't, And so then I was, it got bad. They started showing me also of like, them surrounding somebody. And this is how far removed I was from the Bible and God. They started showing somebody, and because what I had described at the time, I was like, oh, it was like a wooden pole with another wooden pole, like going across it. I didn't even call it a cross. I couldn't at that time.
Yeah.
I had that whatever demon of confusion or just like scrambling in my mind. So I saw them, like there's a man and they were like gathered around him and very like insidious and happy to be following him while he was walking, carrying a cross. But this happened the day where they all had appeared around me when I was laying on my bed. I remember that I saw that vision that day, and I was just thinking like, no, leave him alone. Leave him alone, like what are you gonna do next? So I didn't realize it was even like a spiritual experience I was having, even though I did see a cross.
Yeah.
That was one of the first things they had showed me. So it really got bad, and the burning was just so horrible. So I'm going online and trying to look, and I came across something. Remember, I had cut off all online opinions or ideas, but I had went and it said, pray to God and say this prayer. And so I did, and they just went away. They did. They went away, and it was like all of that. It was like the evil and darkness and all of that went away. I started to experience different types of pain, but I didn't realize how powerful God is, or Jesus's name is so powerful. You can just say that, and it just stops.
It's just that's the most powerful prayer. Isn't that amazing? No, do you remember what prayer? Do you remember what prayer you said?
It was, I mean, once it was a bunch of them. Somebody had said something. It might have been the Lord's Prayer.
Okay.
And it was some other stuff too, like, this is the other weird thing that started happening when I was looking at those prayers and then really trying to pray them with all my might. when I saw Jesus's name, I couldn't think his name.
Oh,
Like, yeah, it was those demons. Like, they didn't want
yeah.
me to.
Yeah, they
And
didn't.
so I had to be strong in that and be able to say his name.
Yeah,
And then when I did, all of that stuff just really, it went away, but I was so traumatized
yeah,
still.
yeah.
I mean, I was
After,
extremely,
yeah,
I was so traumatized. I remembering like it was like a mental block on saying Jesus's name.
yeah.
They didn't want me to say it.
No, they don't want to have to hear that in their
Yeah, they didn't want me to say it. They didn't want me to speak it.
right.
And then I got to see why. I got to see why. And Jesus is so powerful. And, you know, he actually holds the keys to hell and death.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, he has all the power. That's the thing that they want to trick us with, is making us think that they have some kind of power, you know, and it's all lies, you know. They are only given what God allows them to have. And you know, usually it's our own actions that get us into trouble, you know. This is something that's outside of yours, you know, so this is unique to you. It doesn't happen to everybody. But even with these demons affecting you, God still put protections in there to keep you safe and to draw you closer to him. I just think he is so amazing in the way that he's able to navigate everything that they're going to try to do and foil their plans every single time. I think it's quite funny, to be honest, that we are on the side of such a powerful God who can make really scary demons seem like they're nothing. You know, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I was like, wow, God is real.
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
I really didn't have that full realization even then, because I was still so traumatized
And stunned.
but I made sure I was praying every single day. But then something else had started to happen to me where I started feeling a different type of pain.
Yeah.
And it was still so extremely painful. It was very, very painful, but it wasn't evil. Like, it wasn't an evil, painful, but I started experiencing more torture and suffering. But I only saw it being done to one man this time. And I didn't know who it was at the time, because even though like I'm just getting out of the experience and I prayed and I saw the evil go away, I still, like, in that state, it's so much to process. Like, even now, when I think about it, I'm learning new things about it. I started experiencing like a pain of one man, and I experienced someone being behind me. And so it's like when I would close my eyes, the man's body, his body would be like on top of mine, like one body.
Yeah.
And so I felt something like keep like scraping my scalp and like right here, and it was like so sharp and it really hurt really badly. And then I started getting like the nails in my wrist. And some people say it's controversial. I don't know. I was shocked nails being driven through the man's wrist, and it was happening to me like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
And I felt it, and it hurts really bad.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, I knew he didn't do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And it was like, leave him alone, like stop hurting him. And it was like a weight, like a crushing type of weight I was experiencing to it. It was like making me feel like nauseous and sick, and my body was still burning, but I didn't see like fiery flames or being in hell. Everything wasn't in hell anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So then the other thing, like if I would look to the right, I would see a man's hands, and if I look to the left, I would. And it was like what happened wasn't fair.
Yeah.
And so I held his hands, like I reached out and I could look out and see his right hand, like it's on my body. And I turned my hand around like this and held his hand like that.
Okay.
Because like I just wanted to, I knew someone was going through something really bad and they didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So because of that hell experience, I'm like, wow, I'm having to see more people tortured and abused. And, it's just the demons trying to show me this or what, but it didn't feel evil, but it did physically hurt me.
Yeah. But it wasn't the same as when the demons were actually torturing you. This felt like a different type of a purpose to it.
Mm-hmm. And the difference was that I wasn't being shown like multiple people, just the dying and the genocide. It was just one person.
Yeah.
I thought it was still a part of that,
Mm-hmm.
So I was really trying to pray, and I was like, oh no, I hope it's not gonna get worse. And I was like, no, I don't want to go back there, like please. So then I also like, it would be like sporadically throughout the day, I felt like a spear jabbing me in my ribs, and it was so painful that it took my breath away every time it happened. And after that would happen, then it would be like a tap 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 thing like that. And I didn't realize like maybe that represented blood or something. I don't know, but like a wound leaking.
Yeah.
And then also during that time, it's like drinking something too, like out of a cup. And it felt, I didn't like it. And I didn't like it. It felt like it was like making me sick, kind of. That's how I can describe it. And I had no idea what I was actually like. Wow, I'm experiencing more torture and abuse. Like, why? I hope this just hurries up and ends. I hope it hurries and ends.
Right.
And so the other thing, like I could look down and I would see a person, their knees and their his feet nailed down.
Okay.
On a pole of wood. And see, I called it a pole. I'm like, there's one pole on this, but it was a cross.
Right.
It was, I didn't realize until I that part didn't last so long.
Yeah.
That was the quickest part of it all. But before I even saw that, I was shown a vision like of the world where I was like kind of taken up, and what I saw was like a bird's eye view of the earth.
Okay.
And there was like nothing good left on the earth.
Wow.
Yep. So when I saw that vision, I was like just looking around, people were screaming. I mean, it was just complete chaos, and there was like so much pain and anguish. And I decided like, this is just not compatible with life. Like, how could my children even live here? And it was really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Then that's when I started having the experience of the nails and seeing a man get tortured. And I didn't find out later that was Jesus.
Okay.
So it's very profound, because I didn't believe in him or forgiveness. So I see all this horrible, evil, darkness and stuff. And then even when I'm experiencing what he experienced, I mean, there's no way I can ever doubt that now. If you go through something like that, I can't say Jesus is not real. Yes, he is, and he died for us.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. And you
And
got
I
to
was
you got to
shown that
experience a
too.
taste of it. Yeah. That's
Yeah, I was shown that, and I did not believe in him.
yeah.
And I was shown he is real.
Yeah, and now you do. I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing about this whole story is that, it starts out with something that, like you said it yourself, you wouldn't wish this on anybody, but look where it's brought you, this whole experience. And I think initially it seems like this has been the Holy Spirit. I think that experience though with the demons is them probably reacting to the fact that the Holy Spirit is calling you and pulling you out of their jaws. It's in the Bible, I think it's in Peter, I'm not sure which one it is, 1, 2, or 3, but he says be sober and keep alert, because your enemy, the devil, is like a lion prowling around looking for somebody to devour. And that's what you described. It's like everything you were talking about, it sounded like being eaten alive, like having a lion on top of you eating you, and you're not quite dead yet, but hey, in a few minutes this is all going to be over, but I'm going to have the worst possible few minutes left, and there's nothing I can do about it. This powerful animal is on top of me. And you just described this helplessness to such a degree that I think that seems so overwhelmingly scary. And yet at the same time there was this little twinge of hope that was constantly embedded throughout your experience, that I can only liken that to being God calling you and saying, hey, here I am. It's I've been really thinking a lot about this particular Bible verse. I think about it whenever I would get fearful and anxious, particularly about my own medical conditions. But Jesus is sleeping in the boat, and maybe you've heard this one now that you've been reading the Bible, but he's asleep in the boat and his disciples are all freaking out because there's this terrible storm. Well, you might not know, but maybe you do. That a lot of the disciples were fishermen, so they've been on the sea, they've been out fishing, they know how the waters are. So for them to be terrified that they were going to die, this must have been a terrible storm, must have been really bad. But all they did is they wake up Jesus and he says, peace, be still, and the storm stops and it just completely goes quiet. And you were talking about how it, when the Spirit was talking to you, that it kind of felt like it was rocking you and soothing you, and you felt really comforted by it. And that's what I got to think that it felt like to the disciples as that storm stopped. How boats are, they kind of keep rocking a little bit, and it can be really soothing and relaxing, but having your Lord just tell the storm to stop, and then feeling that experience must have just been so overwhelming, probably a lot like what you felt.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the energy that I feel is more real to me than anything.
Yeah.
And I don't look at it as this like disruptive kind of thing that's come into my life anymore. And I even like now talking, I feel it.
Yeah.
It's just always there. And like, when we're breathing and stuff, that's like an automatic thing that our body does and we don't think about it.
Right.
So all of our bodily systems that are just automatically functioning, and we don't really pay attention to it, but the energy is always there. I always feel it. It always has my attention.
Yeah.
But I can still talk and pay attention to it.
Right.
I can do whatever and still pay attention to it. But it feels like a very comforting thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to be shown the truth about myself, but
Right. Right.
but besides, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some people feel very hollow on the inside, or empty on the inside. I don't feel like that.
Yeah.
I always feel, and it's a physical feeling though. It's not just like I've never experienced feeling empty, so I don't know what that feels like. But I'm like, okay, if I feel this energy in all the time,
Right.
on like my whole body, I guess people can literally feel hollow
Yeah,
and very empty on the inside too.
yeah, especially if they're closed off to God and his movements in our lives. I can't imagine you feel anything else but empty unless you get filled with some other kind of a spirit, and I don't think we want that one. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
I there was a couple of things that really struck me. I don't know if you've ever heard of like the five generals. There are like five main demons that work for Satan, and it might be something that you're interested in. I'll look up some videos that I think are more reputable on it, by good sources, and I can send you some links on that. But it's something that maybe, because some of the things that you described really seems like what those generals are responsible for.
Oh, wow.
Child sacrifice is one. So some of the visions of seeing children being murdered, I can see why they would do that to you. And so that's,
And I have children and I love children. It's like they really just know what to do to like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's really bizarre how demons work. I mean, I don't try to pretend like I'm an expert at all, but the things that I've heard are just incredible. And I know you had mentioned reading some of the old writings. In order to do so, you're probably going to have to go to the 1500s or even earlier to be able to really get some of the more reputable stuff. But I think that what you can look at is, particularly going, obviously if you're going to go past the 1500s, you have to go to Catholic, because the Protestants didn't have the Reformation until the 1500s. So you'll have to go before that, but you'll go to like Catholic things. You can find a lot of stuff on saints that have had either visions of hell or experiences of people coming from purgatory or other places and have told them other experiences. So there's a lot of things that, and when you were talking, there's so many similarities to what other people have experienced. I think you'll find a lot of comfort in that, knowing that it's it's something that, the demons aren't controlling you. And I think that's really what I want to leave you with, is that, that they have no ability to do that, especially if you call on God. You found that already. If you call on Jesus, they have no power. So I mean, that all the power resides there. But the other thing I wanted to ask you is, have you thought about going back to church now, or starting to go to church or anything like that?
Yes, actually, yesterday for the first time, I went to a Bible study with my
Did you?
aunt.
Oh, awesome. Good for you. Good. How did that go?
Oh, it went really good. They were talking about the tabernacle in Leviticus,
Yeah.
and I've never read the full book of Leviticus
Yeah.
before, so they were kind of teaching on that.
That's cool. Good.
I do read the Bible daily though.
But
But it's a lot to read and try to understand, but I make sure that I read it daily.
yeah, good for you. Because
Sometimes I'll read it for like hours straight. I'll pray for a long time too.
That's good. That's the other thing I was going to suggest, is that, reading the Bible and then praying and meditating on what you just read, to me, is one of the best prayers that I can do. It's actually meditating on the word of God. But I find God brings me closer to him when I do those things. So I'm so glad to hear that you're doing that. And, do you have anything else that you want to add before we finish?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
All right, good. Yeah, that was awesome. You really had a detailed experience, and I think it gives people a lot of understanding, and I hope it brings them hope too, that that God has a lot of mysterious ways that he communicates with us. And while this might be something that might be too much for other people to handle, and he knows that, so he doesn't give it to them. But I think there's some kind of strength that he sees in you, that you're able to deal with something this extreme. And I don't know what that says. I don't really know what that means, but he does. He sees whatever it is in you, that strength that he sees. He's going to be able to use that, and all you have to do is keep answering that call.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the thing, and then we can say our goodbyes.